Welcome to this special episode of Easy Stress Cures. I am your host, Steve Carter. The reason that I am sharing what I'm sharing here is because we are seeing major fighting, death, destruction on an epic level in the Middle East as the ongoing fighting is occurring in Isreal and surrounding regions. Can those constant images of death and destruction affect our emotional well-being? Yes, indeed they can. In a moment, you and I are going to join a segment of another one of my podcasts, that being Healthy and Happy Senior Living. In that segment, I share information from two psychiatrists, as well as information from the Greater Good Magazine. That publication is part of the University of California at Berkeley. Both of those guides share resources that can help us navigate through the ongoing images and reports of war, death, destruction, so you and I can keep our stress level as low as possible and not suffer ongoing anxiety and emotional distress. The resources that I talk about in this segment from the Healthy and Happy Senior Living show, you're going to find those resources listed in the show notes, also known as the show description. By the way, if you are a senior or a caregiver, I would encourage you to have a listen to the Healthy and Happy Senior Living show. In addition to the resources discussed in the segment, I will have a link to the Healthy and Happy Senior Living show in the event you would like to take a test listen. Let's join that segment from the Healthy and Happy Senior Living show right now. As I record this, we have a raging war in Gaza and Israel. Regardless of whether you are in that theater or you are watching television, you are watching news reports, YouTube videos, and related media reports, the fact that we're bringing those images into our neurology can create significant emotional stress. In the October 17th, 2023 edition of MedicalExpress.com, we have the headline, As Atrocities in Gaza and Israel Unfold, Psychiatrists Give Advice on Coping. As atrocities in Gaza and Israel unfold, psychiatrists give advice on coping. Lead paragraphs. Whether or not you have loved ones in the Middle East, the horrors of the violence and suffering in Israel and Gaza are heart-wrenching. The horrors of the violence and suffering in Israel and Gaza are heart-wrenching and difficult to bear. Dr. Gary Small, who is chair of psychiatry at Hackensack University Medical Center in New Jersey, sums up the challenge here. Quote, "It's important to be informed, but don't stress yourself out. Ration your exposure to what you see, given the impact graphic news reports can have on mental health. Ration your exposure to what you see." Further in the article, we're told brutal events like the attacks in Gaza and Israel can also lead to social contagion, where information and images are amplified and a collective stress emerges. To protect yourself, take breaks from social media, especially if you find yourself watching horrific images repeatedly. Reports of the violence in the Middle East can also trigger anxiety and depression, both in children and adults, for those reading and viewing reports of what's happening. In this article, you'll find guidance for how parents can talk to their children about these horrific attacks. If you have grandchildren, these conversations are likely to come up with you as well. Many of us lived through the 1960s, which was a very tumultuous time. We had, of course, the war in Vietnam. We had riots. We had bombings. It was indeed a very difficult time, but we got through it. being able to share your experiences with younger family members can be incredibly helpful for them to maintain emotional balance and perspective as this conflict continues, which it very likely will continue for months. We certainly hope that is not the case, but I think that is highly likely. Along the line of mental health and emotional well-being related to the conflict, you're going to find an article linked in the show notes. And by the way, all of the articles I share will be listed in the show notes. I encourage you to have a visit to the show notes, also known as the episode description, and click on the links to read articles that you are interested in reading. Again, going back to the conflict in the Middle East, an organization associated with the University of California at Berkeley has provided a comprehensive resource they're calling Greater Good Resources for Peace and Conflict. You'll find a good number of resources in this guide. Again, this will be linked in the show notes. Steve here again. One final request. I encourage you to pray for peace in the Middle East, and indeed, I encourage you to send prayers and good wishes and intention for peace on earth.